Fasten your seatbelts for the realest Eagles and Sixers YouTuber! One who plays no clickbait and gets to the point! The myth, the legend, Nicky Stees! Come to my channel, you know the deal, yo boy, always keeps sticks real. I'm simply statue think they slate, dropping unrealistic mad 2K takes for the clip. Even though cats like that get views closer to the milli, never hear me preach, flip on to Philly. Avoid you watching the Eagles all the way through to early 22. Authentic talk, forget what others do. Come to my channel, you know the deal, yo boy, always keep sticks real. The 24/7, 365 way, sports content for the reals that fill the day. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're having a great Tuesday. It is beautiful by the Jersey Shore, mostly sunny with some clouds, but it's cool air. It's not hot and sticky or humid, which is a breath of fresh air for me. I hope you're doing well today, this Tuesday afternoon, or if you're catching on the replay, Tuesday evening, Wednesday, whatever the case may be. But let's get right into it. We're going to talk, even though weeks 1 and 2, and I'm counting for weeks 1 and 2 the main headlines. I'm not counting the Hall of Fame week, even though that was technically week 1 of the preseason. But yes, folks, let's get into it. Before we get started, share the link. There's the link to my YouTube channel. This is both on my channel, the Nicky Stees channel, and the Hardcore Sports Network. There's the link to my channel. And here's the link to the Hardcore Sports Network. You can sub us up on both if you haven't done so already. And we're going to dive right into it. Quick shout out to Chad and Mitch for coming through this afternoon. And now let's get right into it. So for this one, we're going to talk mainly about the main headlines right here. And we're going to start with one of the more recent ones. We're going to talk about Mr. Caleb Williams. Now, in the game against the Cincinnati Bengals for the Chicago Bears, he only played for a little bit, but for that little bit of play he played, he looked solid. He threw 13 passes. He only completed 6 for 75 yards, but he had one nice deep throw where he evaded a sack, and he did have one touchdown run. Okay, nothing great, wasn't great statistically. Now, he didn't play phenomenal. However, he did make one nice throw, and I got to point out, just that one throw I saw from Caleb Williams looked better than anything I saw from Justin Fields in the passing game. I mean, right there, that one throw is telling me this guy has potential to at least be a better all-around quarterback than Justin Fields. At least the potential's there. Now, we're only talking about a little bit of playing time in a preseason game, but still, look, those were some nice moves right there, especially that throw. It's because, look, with throwing power, it doesn't matter who you're going against. You have to have the arm strength to make a nice throw, regardless of the level of competition you're playing against. And Caleb Williams, with that one nice throw I saw, showed better passing prowess than Justin Fields. So that at least shows, okay, there is some potential here for Caleb Williams to make this happen. And to be fair, you look at the offense around him. He actually has a few weapons. You have DJ Moore and Keenan Allen, who they snagged from the Chargers. That's nice right there. And that's nice. Those are nice weapons for your rookie quarterback to work with. Something that, even though I still think Justin Fields is more of a running back than a quarterback, hey, he's got some weapons to work with now. So at least the Chicago Bears are going in the right direction, trying to get some guys around him to help out. But so far, it looks pretty solid for Caleb Williams. What we will have to ultimately see what's going to happen when he goes against NFL teams. Well, what's going to happen when Caleb Williams has to actually step up and play a real NFL game? Now, that remains the question that remains to be seen. However, so far, I think this guy has some potential. Even some Bears fans. I mean, there's one Bears fan who's a veteran on YouTube, Slug Daddy from Slug Daddy TV. I don't know if any of you guys follow him. Maybe you do. Maybe you don't. Maybe some of the wrestling fans knew him from his Off the Rope Show channel. But he has that in the sports channel. He's a Bears fan. Even he, because I'm kind of was a fan of his videos. I still see his videos and my suggestions. But long story short, it was the video about his preseason recap saying nice debut for Caleb Williams. So the point is, even some Bears fans, and this one I'm talking about, particularly a YouTuber, has been a cynical Bears fan. Even Heath would like what he saw from Caleb Williams in his first preseason game. So the point being is even some Bears fans like what they saw. Even though it was just limited play, though, at least for them, they got at least hope for the future. But I'm not going to put shine on Caleb Williams yet until we actually see what he's going to do in the regular season. What does he do week 1 against the Titans, and what does he do from there? Then I'll be able to get a better assessment of where he's really going to go. But so far, I think this guy has some potential. But speaking of the quarterbacks, another major headline I want to talk about involves, as you can see by the color change, you kind of got a feeling where I'm going with this, their division rival, the Minnesota Vikings. J.J. McCarthy, the rookie quarterback for the Vikings, sadly, he's going to be out for his rookie season with a meniscus injury, which I dropped a short about this on my channel about a week ago. I said it's rotten luck, and it is. I mean, I do feel bad for Vikings fans, for real. The fact that you dealt with a lot. It's been a roller coaster ride for you without the payoff of a Super Bowl win, like it has for my team, or any Steelers fans who've seen multiple wins, or Giants fans who've seen multiple wins, or even Cowboys fans that old enough to actually remember the Super Bowl wins, and so on and so forth. It's tough right there for Vikings fans. You've been teased a couple times, you've been close, and you've had some mediocre and some bad seasons thrown in between. And now you get J.J. McCarthy, you're thinking, okay, maybe this time around, there's hope for the future. He showed some flashes of good in his preseason games. Again, they are preseason games, but hey, you at least saw something like, okay, maybe there's some potential here. And then he goes out with a meniscus injury, and you're stuck without him. And that's going to be tough for the Vikings. I feel bad for their fans, honestly, because so prayers go out to Steelers Troy Funui, who had knee surgery Sunday morning. So thanks to Chad for breaking the news right there. So the Steelers are down one of their guys there. That's going to be that's a tough break right there. But injuries are part of the game. It happens. Right, like it happens there. It happened J.J. McCarthy, which is the big headline one, because you're talking about, as a Vikings fan, you're hoping this guy could be something. You saw a little bit of a flash in the preseason. Now you're stuck the season without him. Now you're going with a Sam Darnold. And just before I went on the air, I was thinking about this, because I was looking at some of the highlights and individual performances of preseason, see what would be worth talking about, what would be worth cramming in my final session, which I'll get to that later. And I was looking at Trey Lance with the Cowboys, like, he's had some solid performances in preseason. I wondered, if you're the Vikings, do you try to, I was thinking for a second, maybe you could trade for Trey Lance, but now that I think about it, that wouldn't work, because that could cause some problems in the long term. If Trey Lance pans out, then you'll have a QB controversy between Lance and McCarthy. So I don't really know about that one now that I think about it. Now, if you're a team desperate for something at quarterback, okay, then maybe you try go for a Trey Lance. Like maybe if this Bryce Young thing isn't working out for the Panthers, then maybe midseason they could trade for Trey Lance, but that's another subject for another time. But the point is, now that I think about it, that was a bad thought about Trey Lance to the Vikings, because then in the long term, that could come back to haunt them. But now you're stuck with Sam Darnold. And one of my work buddies who's a Cardinals fan, we talked about this. We jokingly said, hey, do they have to go trade to get Joshua Dobbs back? And it could happen if Sam Darnold doesn't pan out. And knowing Sam Darnold's history, both with the Jets and then with the Panthers, he showed that he's not the answer at starting quarterback. That's why he's now been relegated to a backup. And we'll have to see. Now, this, I'd say, to be fair, this is the most favorable situation he's in with weapons around him. I'll give him that. But we saw last year the Vikings struggled when injured. So what makes you think Sam Darnold, who has a track record, who struggled as a starter, is going to be the answer to get him through this season, especially when you got to go against the Lions and the Bears could be better than usual? If Caleb Williams is that dude, that's a tough predicament for the Vikings to be in. I'm afraid, like, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm thinking maybe on paper, maybe 6-7 win ceiling. I mean, maybe if, maybe you get lucky because, hey, you never know in football. Sometimes you could get lucky when 8 or 9 games we were not expected to do anything and sneak in as a wild card. I mean, maybe that could happen. We'll have to wait and see. But I think on paper, I'm thinking 6 or 7 wins on paper for the Vikings now with no JJ McCarthy, because I don't know where you go from there. I mean, you got Sam Darnold, but we know he's not the answer, like I've said. And they had James Addison, like a player so after in practice goes down with an injury. Now, fortunately, he'll be able to return. It looks like he'll be good for the regular season. So they got lucky there, but the worst luck you could have is your rookie quarterback to get injured, because not only that, but you got to look at the future as well. What's going to happen when JJ McCarthy's rusty from a year out of football, and coming off a major injury? Think about everything you got to go through to rehab your injury as an athlete. It's a lot of grind and tear. It is tough, both physically and mentally, to recover from that injury as an athlete. Then you got to come back from that, that process, the wear and tear, physically and especially mentally, of going back from an injury. Then you come back green into the NFL. That could be a tough predicament for JJ McCarthy to return from. Especially and then have to go right into the NFL, which next year will basically be his rookie year unofficially at this point, because he's not going to be playing this year. That could be bad for them in the long term. It could just be that rotten luck. And like I said, I can't say anything to Vikings fans except I do feel bad for you as fans, because what? I don't really know what to say. I'm at a loss for words, and I'm sure Vikings fans are too. I can't speak for them, but I would imagine they're at a loss for words. But yeah, that's a tough break right there. All I can say is best of luck to the Vikings trying to navigate without JJ McCarthy. That's what I'm going to say there. And now we're going to stick to the NFC for a little bit. We're going to switch gears now. We got another team to talk about who made some headlines this year. Some headlines over this past week, boosting up their defense. I think you kind of got a feeling who I'm going to talk about right there. You see the screen. We are going to talk about the Atlanta Falcons. They traded for former 4-time Pro Bowl linebacker and pass rusher Matthew Judon, who had a few stellar seasons with the Patriots, who was disgruntled with the team. He wasn't happy with the direction things were going in. And they signed safety Justin Simmons, who was waived by the Broncos back in March to clear up cap space. Nice moves right there for the Falcons. Now you got, especially at the secondary, you got Justin Simmons and Jesse Bates as your safeties. That's looking like a nice safety duo right there for the Falcons. And you had Matt Judon, who's a pass rusher, who helped lead that Patriots defense. It was one of the bright spots of them throughout the 2021 and 22 seasons. I think those are good pickups right there for the Falcons, and a smart move right there. You didn't have to give up much to get Judon. You only had to trade a third rounder or something. That's cool, right? That's a nice pickup right there for the Falcons defensively. And things are starting to look up for them now, at least on the defensive side of the ball. Right, because I think, hey, as long as you keep these guys healthy, you got some solid pieces there. Not to mention, you got Jesse Bates last year. Nice move. You still got Grady Jarrett there, who's your veteran. Brings credibility to the locker room. Those are some nice So now you're building up a good defense. You got Raheem Moore, former Super Bowl champ, defensive coordinator with the Rams, with Aaron Donald and company, Jalen Ramsey. You got, right there, you're talking, this is looking good for the Falcons defensively. But, however, you got to factor in, it ain't just, you don't solely win games on defense, especially in this era. Really, you've never solely won games on defense, really. Maybe you could say the 2000 Ravens, who were the greatest defense ever. Everything just, it worked, luck worked out in their favor where you could still win a Super Bowl. But even like historically, some of the all-time great defenses, like a lot of them didn't really win Super Bowls. A lot of them, you say the 85 Bears, but they still had some semblance of offense. Jim McMahon had a solid season that year. Still had a decent run game. But like some of those defenses, like the 0-1 Dolphins, Zach Thomas, Jason Taylor, they only got to the playoffs and then were out. The 0-5 Bears with Brian Urlacher, Lance Briggs, Nathan Vasher and company. You saw come playoff time, their offense was their downfall at home against the Panthers. So there has been some history of some of these great look at the Falcons. The 77 or 78 Falcons had an excellent defense, but their offense sucked. Ironic. Point being is defense alone is not going to win you. It's not just in the present, in this offensive friendly era. It's been that way historically too. So it's also important for the Falcons that while you've got an upgrade on defense, you got to remember the offense has to shine too in this one as well. Now you got to hope that as long as whether it be Kirk Cousins or what's his name, Cousins or Penix, whatever one it is, that's your starter. As long as they're better than Desmond Ridder, which they should be, you should at least have a shot on offense. Because even Kirk Cousins, to be fair, it's looking like he's going to be the starter. However, remember, to be fair, Kirk is coming off a major injury. So how would that factor in if he ends up getting the start with him off an injury last season? Is he going to struggle a bit? Is Cousins going to struggle a bit? That's the question. As he could be a little rusty, he's in his 30s. But I think overall offense, you have a few solid pieces there. You do. Because you still have Bijan Robinson. Kyle Pitts is still a decent option. So as long as your QB plays improved, the Falcons might have a shot of at least winning 8 or 9 games potentially. And possibly getting number 4 seed. However, if they do end up getting the number 4 seed off the backs of having a QB upgrade and the upgrades with Judah and Simmons to add to that defense, they're probably getting bounced in the wild card round at home if they still end up winning that NFC South. Now, I feel it's between the Falcons and the Bucs at this point. The Saints, they've fallen off a cliff. To me, Derek Carr is just mid. And then the Panthers, they're in a deep rebuild. I don't see them being any better. I think maybe there is a shot here with the Falcons that they could at least win their division, at least return to the playoffs for the second time since that Super Bowl collapse back at Super Bowl 51. So I think this looks good for the Falcons on paper. As long as everyone stays healthy, as long as they click, this could work out. But time will ultimately tell on that one. However, gotta say, it's looking pretty solid for the Falcons right now. Them as a team. I think those are some nice additions, but we will also have to see what happens. And ironically, that's going to tie me into the last main subject that I'm going to analyze in depth. It's ironically their week 1 opponent, the Pittsburgh Steelers. So if Chad's still in the chat, this one's for you. The big question now, who do the Steelers start? Is it Justin Fields or Russell Wilson? Now, from my point of view, I was leaning toward saying if you're looking at it from the Steelers' point of view, go with Russell Wilson because even though he's not what he was in Seattle, he has the experience. He's been on the Super Bowl stage as a starter twice. He's been to numerous Pro Bowls. He was at one point a top 10 quarterback, if not a top 5 at one point. So, and Chad's coming in, and there's Chad signing up Russell Wilson in agreement to me. I was looking at it from their point saying you'd want to go with Russ. And now the reason it's a question is because Russell Wilson has a calf injury. It looked like he was struggling a bit in that preseason game. In part, the offensive line didn't help either. So he does have that. But that raises a concern for the Steelers come regular season time of if the offensive line isn't on point, how long is Russ going to last? Now, I think what the Steelers should do, I think they should rest Russell Wilson this final preseason game. Just give Justin Fields the start, then give your third stringer some playing time. Just give Russell Wilson the time to rest and ready for the season opener against the Falcons. but we will have to see. And the reason it's still up for debate is because with Russ being injured, you got to wonder, are the Steelers going to lean toward Justin Fields if Russell Wilson's unable to go early in the regular season? Or not even that, but if his calf doesn't hold up and he misses time due to injury, which sadly could happen, the Steelers might have to rely on Justin Fields. So that's the reason this question's being proposed now, because it is something the Steelers might inevitably have to face. They might have to go with Justin Fields, the guy who, yeah, he would be in a better situation than he was in Chicago. Yes, that is true, but I didn't see anything from Justin Fields that indicates to me, hey, this guy's a starter in the National Football League. When I look back on Justin Fields' run with the Bears, most of the throws that I've seen from him were horrible throws that were intercepted or just thrown into the ground that just did not. Hey, Dan, happy Tuesday. Yes, indeed. I got to admit, that yellow color looks good right there on the screen. The yellow and black. That looks nice right there. Back to what I was saying. And Justin Fields, I've seen his highlights. They're either runs or poor throws. So I don't see anything from Justin Fields that's indicated that he's a quality starter. And hence the reason the Bears moved on and are going with Caleb Williams. That's why. So I think if you start Justin Fields, you're kind of stuck in a similar predicament you've been in the past 2 years where you got a quarterback. Sorry, excuse the flies, folks. You got a quarterback who is limited in your offense. You got a solid defense around you that can produce. You got a great head coach in Mike Tomlin. Got probably top 15 all time. Is a great head coach in Tomlin. But your lack of a star quarterback will be holding you back. That's the same situation. The Steelers have put themselves in that same situation they've been in these past couple since late Ben's career. Since Ben was passed, they only didn't want to hang it up. It's been that same situation for the Steelers. First, it was a washed-up Ben Roethlisberger. You have a good team around you, good head coach. The thing holding you back from being a contender is that star quarterback, because you were still holding on to a QB that was that guy in the past. And then you looked at Kenny Pickett. He was extremely limited in the offense, hence why now he's a backup for the Eagles. The Steelers won 9 games back-to-back seasons in spite of him. And last year, they won some games late to make a push for the wild card in the 7th seed without Kenny Pickett. And now you're coming into this year, you're going with a declining Russell Wilson, who, despite declining, he still has been there. He has the experience. He'd probably do a little bit better, I feel, in this offense than he did with the Broncos, as long as he stays healthy. But you're also talking about the possibility you could have to go with Justin Fields, who, if you do have to go that route because of injury, you're stuck with a guy who's pretty much limited to run plays, which is a little bit more than what Kenny Pickett could produce. But where's Justin Fields' passing ability? I haven't seen it yet. I still think Russell Wilson, at least, he is a veteran. He can still at least make some plays. He still has the veteran instincts to make some good passes here or there and make some plays for you. Or in some cases, do enough to win a game. Maybe in like a big physical game against maybe one of your division rivals like Cleveland or Baltimore. He could still do enough to help them win those games. So I think they should go toward Russell Wilson, but there is the possibility the Steelers could be forced to go with Justin Fields. And now for this last skit, what I'm going to do right here, I'm going to do a skit called the 2-minute breakdown. I'm going to talk about a handful of subjects during this 2-minute breakdown. And we're just going to go from there. So I'm going to wait till I hit 25 minutes for exactly on the dot on my stream. And then we're going to go from there. I'm going to give you the 2-minute breakdown. So once you hit 25, I'm just going to go through. Pretty much going to dedicate 30 seconds to 4 subjects. They're going to give my thoughts on those real quickly. Kind of like they do, on some of those sports shows toward the end where you wrap it up. So you talk about the less important subjects, get your thoughts off quickly, keep it moving. That's what I'm going to do right here for you guys. Mostly going to be talk about quarterbacks for this last bit. So I think you guys will probably find this fun. Hope you enjoy it. So let's get into it. Let the 2-minute breakdown begin. So the Raiders have officially just named Gardner Minshew the starting quarterback over Aiden O'Connell, which makes Aiden O'Connell, that makes sense because Gardner Minshew's a guy who's at least had experience. He put together a respectable campaign last year with the Colts. You don't really have much at QB. You at least go with the experienced guy. Hope he can help win you some games. Me personally, I think Minshew's kind of like a modern day Fitzpatrick, a streaky QB that'll play good at times, but also play shitty at times. But we'll see what happens for the Raiders. Now, the Patriots, I think personally the Patriots should start Drake May. Now, in that game against the Eagles, he made a few nice plays there early, but in the third quarter, we got to him. He couldn't, he botched a few snaps. He had a fumble. He was looking raw and green, but he is a rookie. I think you're the Patriots. You're already in a deep rebuild. You're in a tough division. I feel like you got to start Drake May anyway. Let him get the rookie jitters out of his system. Hope he learns and grows from it as a quarterback. In Washington, naming Jalen Daniels the starter makes sense. You had a few decent plays from him in Miami in the opener. I think this guy at least has some potential to be the quarterback that Washington has not had for decades, that RG3 was supposed to be for the injury. And I feel like as long as he stays healthy, he could be the guy, and we could have some competition with Washington again in the NFC East. But I think it makes the most sense for them. Start him, let him do that rookie season, see what he can do. And the last thing I wanted to talk about was Trey Lance, because he's had a few solid performances in preseason for the Cowboys. Granted, they're preseason games, but I'm like, he put up some decent numbers in the starts. I think he's at least worthy of a second chance. Now, maybe if Dak's playing poorly, gets injured, he could step up. Or maybe a team like the Panthers, if they're struggling with Bryce Young, maybe they could trade for him and try out with Trey Lance. But we'll have to see what happens. I think he's worthy of another shot. But yeah, there's the 2-minute breakdown for you guys right there. So I hope you enjoyed that right there. So it was something I would do more of. But yeah, I was starting to close in on this right now. Before I go, I'm going to take a look around the Philadelphia Eagles website. Let's see if there's any news about my team right here that's interesting. Now, the reason I wasn't really talking about the Eagles in this one is because I already did my preseason recap on Friday last week, or 8 p.m. So I decided, how about this time around, I'll talk about the NFL. Devote some time. I'm just going to see if there's any big news going on. Now, I'm still waiting mainly on about Tyler Steen right now to find out is he going to come back from his injury and what's going to be the extent of it. But still far, there's no update on Tyler Steen, so not really going to get into that. I'm going to keep an eye out, though, for it. I'll drop a YouTube short about it later on my channel. So for all my Eagles fans, if you want to YouTube, keep an eye out for my YouTube shorts to see if I'm uploading. Probably sometime later tonight, tomorrow, I'll drop some Eagles stuff there for you guys. But for now, though, it's not really much to talk about. Nothing major yet for the Eagles to dive into, so I'll leave it at that. So I'm going to end this by saying thanks to everyone that tuned in. I hope you enjoyed this. It looked like we had things rocking and rolling with the chat a little bit, and even with the view count. We had Mitch. Chad was up in here. We had Daniel Barry in here. Got to talk about Chad's favorite team a little bit. He got to chime in. I know he was happy about that. Of course, as always, shout out to everyone that always comes through with the chat. You're the guys that always keep this stream going every single week. Whether it be the Sports Talk with Nikki Stees, preseason recaps, Eagles pregame, postgame recaps, pick and roll podcasts as a group with myself, Coach Ed Gladney, Mitch Kofsky, Next Shit Frangie, Blazed Radio, and Rios. Again, you guys always keep everything going, so I appreciate that right there. And you make this thing fun. And also, shout out to the Hardcore Sports Network, as always, for letting me stream this on their channel as well, for letting me be a member with them since September 2022, going on nearly 2 years now with the network. And also, shout out to Spotify, because Mitch Kofsky will upload this to Spotify later, most likely. I'll share the link to it on my Twitter if he does. And before I go off here, I'm going to share the link to my Twitter. So if you guys aren't following me on Twitter, you can go hit me up there. Because my Twitter is specifically for sports-related stuff and YouTube-related stuff. So Check it out if you're looking for more YouTube related stuff, my sports content. There's the link. So again, thanks to everyone that tunes in. I hope you enjoyed this. Hope you're enjoying the rest of your Tuesday or Wednesday, or if you're catching this on the replay. So until next time, it's Nicky Stee signing off. Have a great day and peace. Fly, Eagles, fly, baby.